So the kids started school this week at home. It's a thing. And that means something important for the channel. It means that today is a wine soap day. And before I talk about what wine and what soap, hello, I'm Mrs. Soap and Clay. Let's make stuff. How's it going, Sudsers? Welcome back to the channel. You are here for another round of 365 days of soap, and today is day 157, and we are making the Muscafoam. Now, the Muscafoam is a wine soap that is made from a moscato, and it's awesome and fun. Has a cool crushed grapeseed exfoliant in it. And today in the pour, we're playing around with glycerin rivers again because I love playing around with glycerin rivers, and I'm going to show you how to get glycerin rivers and how to make sure they really pop in like really dark colors. Now this color, this particular pour is a 2-layer with a mica line, things that I don't like. So let's go watch the making of the Muscafoam and you can critique all my crappy work. So the making of the Muscafoam. Now this guy gets a boatload of kale and clay as well as crushed grapeseed, which is all mixed in with some extra water because me and glycerin rivers were a thing. And the bottom portion of the soap is colored a beautiful Merlot color, and I believe the color is actually called Merlot from Brambleberry, if I am remembering my mica colors correctly. And it is also, it has a cool like green, whatever. And the wine that is used for this is a moscato, so hence the very white or clear nature of the lye solution that's going in there. I didn't show you the making of the lye solution. I feel like I've done that a lot for beer and wine soaps, so you know, I'll link one where I did the damn thing and you can see. You can also see that that is not at emulsification, so you know, keep mixing. And the moscato, when I put it in, it's a full sub for the water that would normally go into a recipe like this. And I do freeze the moscato. I don't always freeze beers and milks, but I think I have, maybe once or twice I have not frozen a wine to go into a soap. But for this I did freeze it, let it cool down, did the thing. Now the oil blend for this is my old school Big Bubble blend. So we have a coconut oil and palm oil in equal parts, and that makes up about 60% of the batch, and then the remaining is olive oil and shea butter and avocado oil as well as grapeseed. And that creates a really big, beautiful, epic lather that is just all the awesome. But it's not super necessary when you're working with like a wine or a beer soap because the alcohol inclusion actually, because of the sugars, it creates an epic lather anyway. So almost any oil blend that you love using will do. I just like to ensure that mine's a super duper Big Bubble. Now the scent blend with the Muscafoam, it's actually a really cool blend. So it has some sort of, I don't know, I can't exactly describe it. So it definitely has some grape notes in it, right? But also almost a floral, well, definitely floral because there's rose in this as well. And then it has a little bit of cedar in it to kind of create a more, yes, fruity, but also with a woody, you know, undertone because, you know, that's cool with a wine soap, because people are always drinking wines and saying, oh, well, it's crisp with blackberries and a woody finish, and I don't ever know what that means, but I make my soaps smell like the people say they taste, so I don't know. Now, for the pour of this guy, it is a 2-layer pour with a mica line in the middle. So the Merlot portion goes down first, and that sits up for just a little bit. With wine and beer soaps, especially since it's, you know, lots and lots of clay that goes into these as well, they firm up pretty quickly, so I don't have to wait too terribly long before I can put the mica line down, which is good. And the mica line in and of itself is always fun. You guys have seen a couple mica lines and whatever. Mica lines are great. I love them. This little squirt thing here is awesome. It's the coolest thing ever said. Well, I'm sure lots of people say that, but Mrs. Soap and Clay usually does not say that. It's a bit tedious. It takes a while, honestly, to get the mica line put down with this thing, and I am tired by the end of it. Like, my hand hurts and my forearm. It's all thing. But, you know, it's a nice green thing that goes in the middle of the bar, and that's cool. And I don't know at this point if I actually laid down enough mica, really, with this, and I really never do. Mica lines have never, I guess I like the idea of them, but actually, is once I start making one, I get bored so fast. So anyway, mica line in the middle, and then on top of that is going to go the remaining batter. The majority of it is white, and that's the cool thing about working with a moscato for the wine, because it stays, you know, nice and white, the batter does. But interestingly, I have worked with a lot of red wines, and the color does not come out in the finished product, and that is particularly true of soaps that have a lot of solid oils in them, like a coconut, that are very white in nature. Once the coconut kind of solidifies during sponification and everything, the soaps can go back to their natural, like, creamy state, which is interesting, really. And I actually learned that because I was hoping that the wine I was working with was going to do the coloring for me for my soap, and it looked like that was going to be the case. And then it saponified, and I cut it, and I went, huh, that's a cream bar of soap, but you know, it's okay. So ever since then, I make sure that I get a little bit of colorant in, just in case it's not going to do what I want. But again, working with a Moscato, I don't have to worry about that, really. Now, these two little beakers that I'm preparing here, the burgundy and the green, those are to do a little bit of a swirl kind of at the top of the bar, just to kind of tie the base Merlot color and the green mica line together in, you know, someplace. And so not a lot goes into there. And I also don't scent those two portions because I want that to be reasonably fluid, whereas this batter here will be less so rather quickly. So see how it's just already starting to thicken up? That's the nature of the crushed grapeseed in there, as well as the kaolin, and then you put the scent blend in, and this is always a thickener anyway. So it's not as fluid as I would like to do a really good, you know, swirl. So, I mean, it's reasonably fluid though. Look at that, it's beautiful. There's nothing wrong with that. I love making this soap not for that reason. I'm a hot mess. Look at all the stuff on the side. So here's the thing. For this pour, I like keeping things on the side walls, like the side of the mold, the walls, because I fold it over the colored portion I put in the middle. And for that reason, I like it. But, you know, the stuff that's actually on the top of the mold there, like on the rails, that's stupid. That's just me not being good at things. I'm a hot mess. I'm just a disaster in everything that I do. And so, yeah, I keep all of the white portion just up the walls there on both sides, and then put the colored portion in the middle in no real, you know, well, there's no real rhyme or reason to it. And I'm also not pouring it so high that it's going to break into the white underneath too terribly much because I don't really want it to. I want it to kind of sit in this weird globby mess right here, and then I will use the hanger to push it down just in pieces. And the reason for that is because I want to better control where the little wispy colors of, you know, the red and the green go, really. And now that that's in the mold, I just take my spatula and pull everything off of the side wall, and so I sort of just gently place it over the top of the colored portion that is, you know, in the middle of the mold there. And you'll see it better on this side, and just kind of fold it over like that. And that helps with the colored portion underneath not moving too terribly much when you put your, you know, your white portion on. And it also pushes it more into the middle, which is kind of where I always want this color to be with this particular soap. This is a soap that I haven't actually changed much. For my soaps that I have in my line forever, I've had the wine soaps in my line for years and years. I tend to play with the designs, you know, here and there. And the Muscafoam, I don't play with too terribly much. I have kept it as is almost forever, and I think the reason for that is because when I was first making the wine soaps, this one was the hardest to figure out a design for, and I had changed it, you know, 3 or 4 times before I finally settled on one. Now with that, I am just taking the hanger and doing a couple swirls, swirling the green into the red and the red into the other side with where the green is and all that jazz. Nothing special. But yeah, so it took me so long to finally settle on a design for the Muscafoam that once I did, I just don't go back. I'm not going back for this one. So the remaining colored portion goes on the top of the soap with a nice little messy top. I used to make everything nice and straight. I don't do that anymore. I just put it all in there, and then you take your skewer to it, and it all does its, you know, skewery, beautiful thing, and it all looks like you spent tons of time putting perfect lines on it, and I didn't. It looks messy. But, you know, I'll take the skewer to it in a minute, and everything will no longer look messy. It would look beautiful, like I spent tons and tons of time perfecting the lines, and I didn't. But look, I'm like wiping off the rails for you. I never do that. It's amazing. I'm trying to impress somebody today, I think. And yeah, see, you get the skewer out and do the thing, and it all comes together and looks just perfect and awesome. Now, this will be C-popped. I'm not really worried about any sort of extra heat getting to it. Even with the sugar alcohols in the wine, I don't really mind a cracked top, so not that big of a deal. So it will be C-popped because I do want the, you know, the burgundy, the Merlot to retain its beautiful color. And then we will cut this tomorrow and see what we are working with inside. And here it is, cut day, and look how glossy and shiny that top is. It's so pretty. That is gel. That is why I gel. And I don't actually see any cracks at the top of that, so there was not too much heat there, which is good. I like that. And do you guys still love the cutter? Isn't it just like the prettiest cutter ever? I love this thing. It's so beautiful. Mr. Soap and Clay has a single cutter to attach to it, and he keeps asking me to bring it home so he can do it, and I continue to conveniently forget. And look how pretty the glycerin rivers are down there. I love that. I am such a sucker for glycerin rivers, and as you may know if you've watched the channel, because I'm into it. Interestingly, so there is I don't know that I would necessarily call it that's gorgeous. I love the swirls on the top too. They're very delicate, but they're sort of like a sideways hidden feather instead of like a whatever. But yeah, there's this weird kind of trend going on right now. People are trying to make transparent soaps, right? And transparent soaps that is not melt and pour. And it's kind of a head scratcher for me. I'm like, well, you guys, people are blown away. Like, oh my gosh, how do you do it? I mean, it's all about your water content. like glycerin rivers, and you continue to up that water content with glycerin rivers. And I've shown you that a couple times in videos, like the slanted layers that we did for the blue agave. That is a beautiful soap. And how it, you know, we were kind of going for like a marbled meat look. This always sounds gross when I describe it that way, but yeah, no, you can create glycerin rivers. You can also create an entire batch of soap that's transparent, that's not, you know, this might be confusing. So I think I might go ahead and I should do a transparent soap on the channel so you know how it's done. People are just mind blown right now. Well, it's interesting because people are mind blown, but also hate glycerin rivers. And it's like, well, it's kind of the same process. Like it's kind of the same concepts to achieve or, you know, not achieve both, really. But yeah, no, I'm making a note. We're totally going to do a transparent soap video because why not? And these are super beautiful. I love the really tiny, you know, swirls and everything at the top of the bar. Just a little hint of something beautiful up there. And that's kind of all you need. And that is day 157, the Muscafoam. I think we have made 3 of the 4 wine soaps from my line at this point. So all that's left is the Sauvignon Blanc, but that's the Muscafoam. Yeah, my work isn't crappy. I was just, self-deprecation is fun at times, or funny. I don't know. Anyway, that's the Muscafoam. Again, made from a moscato, so you have the clear liquid lye solution thing going on because moscatos are a white, and I love a good moscato. I love sweet wines just in general. That's always been my bag. And after, you know, a couple days of doing the homeschooling thing, I need wine. So it's wine time for me right now. If you are interested in having wine soap time, you can totally find the Muscafoam and the rest of the boozy soaps on the website at soapandclay.com. If you are interested in following the channel, that would be cool. You could subscribe, and it would make my it would make my homeschooling life seem a little bit brighter to know that there are adults out there that are maybe not feeling my same pain exactly, but they are out there and they're not asking me for snacks. So thank you so much for joining me for another round of 365 days of soap. I super appreciate it. I am done for the day and I'm going on to enjoy said wine time. So I will see you guys all tomorrow. Bye.